let's take a look at some special product patterns. So these are really handy because if you can get these memorized, the patterns memorized, then you don't have to multiply by doing the long method of the box method, the FOIL method, or anything else. So it actually is quite useful. So the sum and difference, that special pattern is when you have an a plus b and a minus b, that will always be an a squared minus b squared. So let's go ahead and multiply this. Let's do FOIL. This is a times a, which is a squared. A times negative b is just negative ab. Then we have b times a. Now b times a is the same as a times b, right? A times b is the same as b times a, just like 3 times 2 is the same as 2 times 3. So I'm just going to rewrite it so it is the same. A plus times a b. And then the last part is the b minus b, so b times a negative b is a negative b squared. So notice I can cancel out this negative, so it's negative 1ab and a positive 1ab. That just disappears, and notice that we're just left with a squared minus b squared. Now if you notice this pattern, look at this example here. We have x plus 3 times x minus 3. If you know the pattern, then you know that this is going to be x squared minus 9. Now if you have a hard time seeing this, it's okay that you use a box method, FOIL method, or any other method. I know some of you are able to see this right away and can do it, and maybe eventually a lot of you will be able to see it and can do this pattern to save yourself some time. So that's the first example. So you're multiplying what's called conjugates. They have the same exact terms but opposite signs in the center. Now let's look at a square of a binomial. So we have a plus b squared. So that pattern, just to do it, is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So let me go ahead and multiply this with the box method. So we have a and b, a and b. So a times a is a squared. A times b is ab. A times b is also ab. And b times b is b squared. Now remember, in the front of these, there is a 1. So we have a squared. We have the like terms. We have 1ab and 1ab. That becomes 2ab. And then just the b squared. So let's look at the second one. A minus b squared, that is going to be a squared. And then a minus 2ab plus b squared. So I'll do this with the FOIL method. So remember, when you have a square, that you have to write it twice. That's what it means. You can't distribute it. It's not just a squared minus b squared. Okay, so you have to write it twice and then multiply. Let's do FOIL. A times a is a squared. And then this is a times negative b is negative ab. A times negative b is also a negative ab. Then negative b times negative b is a positive b squared, because negative times a negative is positive. Then notice you have negative 1 and negative 1 here, so there are 2 of them. So that's why this pattern is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, so these are handy to know. So looking at this example here, so you just apply this pattern. So the first thing is a squared, so that's this. A squared is y squared. Then you take 2 times the y and the 4, so I'm just going to write it, and then plus the 4 squared. So let's simplify. This is y squared plus 4 times 2 is 8y plus 4 squared, which is 16. So let's try the next one. 2t minus 5 squared. So let me write it like this. 2t squared minus 2, because that's a 2 from the pattern. Then we write the stuff in the inside. 2t times 5. And then the last one is just a positive 5 squared. Now these are a little difficult, so just thinking about, they already gave us a sign in here, so don't worry about plugging in the sign. It's already given to us. Just plug in what you know. And this will help us in the cube of a binomial next, and it'll also help us with Pascal's triangle when we do that lesson next. So when we square 2t squared, so remember that is 2t times 2t, so be careful. That becomes 4t squared. Let's do the inside here. Negative 2 times 2, that's a negative 4t, and then times 5. So 4 times 5, that's a negative 20t, and then 5 times 5 is a 25. So this final answer is 4t squared minus 20t plus 25. And if you have a hard time with this, again, then, do it the other method. Do the box method or the FOIL method if you are not comfortable with applying the pattern.